Eat a bag of raw fuck,
Bitch. Yes, I know. I know all your lines. I know everything.
You don't know everything. You don't know anything. So should I start with the story that happened on Monday? So I walk into Starbucks on Monday, right? So street cleaning. I drove my car to Starbucks. Walked in.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, I'm sorry. I'm going to take a big shit on what you just said. So you prefaced, we took a hike.
What else is new?
We took a hike earlier, and you prefaced that you had a Starbucks story that you refused to tell me until tonight. So, folks, ladies, gentlemen, shims, we are going to have an exclusive on this podcast, and it's this story. So please, take it away.
It's not a big deal. It's not a...
What part of promo do you not understand?
It's not a big... I don't want them to be like, that was it. But it's not a big deal. But I wanted to get your genuine reaction as if you're hearing this for the first time. Because you really are hearing this for the first time. So, I go to Starbucks on Monday. I get my drink. I sit down. I start working. And in walks this gaggle of white bitches. Like just loud, obnoxious white bitches. They walk in. They're, what are you gonna order? Oh, I don't know. What are you gonna order? And, okay, they weren't drunk, but they sound like...
They weren't drunk, but they all had learning disabilities.
They all had a thermos like my sister.
They all...
Yes.
All mute.
No, it was literally... I heard one... Because I had headphones in at one point. I was not listening to anything, but I had them in to deaden the sound. But I could hear their nasally voices over everything. And it was... well, I've had the matcha tea, and it's really good. I think I'm just going to get an Americano. And I'm just like, oh... So I really thought deeply about turning on music, but I went, okay, I have work to do. I'll just drown them out. So I'm sitting there, minding my own business. They're still talking about whatever they want to order. It's like 4 of them. And then in walks this black gentleman. Very tall man, good looking. He looked like he just came from the gym.
How do you know he's a gentleman? Did you just say that because he's black?
No, he had an air about him like he was important.
I'm just making sure.
He looked very important.
I'm just pressure testing your assessment.
He looked very important. He looked very nice. He came.
I'm just prostate milking your assessment.
He just came from the gym, clearly, and had on, but like almost like Lululemon gym clothes. Like he was very, very put together, and he had his headphones in. Wasn't saying anything. He walked in behind them. They were standing in line, and they went to walk up to the register to order, and all of a sudden, they're still talking very loudly, and all of a sudden the black man says, oh, no. He has his headphones in, right? He's on the phone, clearly.
Oh.
One of the white bitches turns around without skipping a beat and says, did I say something offensive?
Oh, yes.
To which he looked at her and went, he laughed in her fucking face.
Yes.
And I said, you, sir, are an American hero.
Oh, that is wonderful.
I'm so sorry. Did I offend you?
It's like, wait, where are we as a society that... She said it in all sincerity.
Right.
She was talking about an Americano or some fucking bullshit like that. And he says, oh, no. And she assumed, I said something offensive?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
It was Starbucks. She wasn't ordering a Negroni.
Funny. No,
that was a good fucking line. Come on, that was at least a 6.
What is wrong with people?
20.
What is wrong with people?
I think the problem is, well, first, what is wrong with people? How long do we have? But I think the issue is, first of all, I think that they were surprised that he was not talking on speakerphone. Second of all, as the gentleman was sitting there having a conversation, they automatically assumed, knowing that they're the center of the universe and everything that they said had to revolve around them. So if someone across the street said something, they probably would have reacted to it. So that's the level of narcissism. And the third thing is, did I do something wrong? If you actually did something wrong, would you reach around and say that? Like, would you reach into, in a conversational way, not a physical way? I don't know what, there's some sick individuals in this room. Would you immediately say, oh, did I say something wrong? No. No one who is not a complete narcissist or insane person would say that if it's someone that they're not even
No, exactly.
talking
No,
to.
you're absolutely right. The white guilt was dripping off of this woman. Like,
Instead of the dogma lives loudly, the white guilt lives loudly within her.
yeah. It's like the definition of methinks thou doth protest too much. Like, you assume everything that you do is wrong, everything that you do is offensive, and it's probably just because you're white. That is, we have come to a seriously fucked up place in society if that is how people automatically think.
I think that that's interesting because the whole concept of white guilt is inherently narcissistic, because it means these actions that were clearly outside of my control are my fault.
Right.
So by claiming those actions, you are claiming a larger space, which is a word that they love to use in this sort of discussion, critical race theorists. You are claiming a larger space, both positive and negative, than anybody else involved in the discussion. Somebody who is of color, who trips and falls on the street, and people stepping out who are white Caucasians saying, oh, I'm so sorry, it's my fault, like everything. You had nothing to do with the situation. It was a tree root. You didn't plant the tree. You didn't pour the sidewalk. But you're automatically assuming that everything that goes wrong in a person of color's day is your fault. That is the height of narcissism. Like, you are going beyond anything that Christopher Columbus could have done, any diseases he could have brought, because you're saying that everything negative or even perceived as negative that happens in a person of color's day is your fault. Imagine thinking that you have that kind of impact on anybody.
I just have to say, as an aside to this, as a writer,
Is that a gender?
as a writer, I would have said height of hubris, not height of narcissism, but that's okay.
Hubris is a type
It sounds better.
Hubris
Just
is a
yes
type-
and.
No. Yes, no. Hubris sounds like a Greek appetizer. I think I had hubris
You know
with some
what?
tzatziki and hummus.
Has anyone had someone? So say you're like at a
Introduce
restaurant.
yourself. They don't know who this is.
Hi, I'm Kyle. Anyway,
Okay.
has
It sounded
anyone?
very Persian. Hi.
Kyle.
Kyle.
Hello. I want this rug for $20. God. Anyway.
You're so racist.
Persian isn't a race, it's a disability. Go.
So has anyone had a conversation, like you're talking with your friends, and anyone outside the conversation come in and be like, judge you, or someone in the group for talking or being offensive, I mean, has anyone had a scene or?
Has anyone actually said that the action that you did is offensive? Like, has anybody said that?
Well, say you're at a restaurant, and you're in a booth or a table, whatever.
Okay.
With your friends, and you're having a conversation amongst yourselves, and you're saying offensive things. You're saying racist things because you're friends. Everyone at the table knows you're not.
That's every time I'm at a restaurant.
Yes.
He knows.
Everyone there knows you're not racist. You're just being funny. And you're just making a joke, and then you have some outsider, some stranger across the table or at another table comes over to you, and
I thought of it.
starts I just have to point out, you people are so racist. I cannot believe you think that's fun.
I'm sorry. If someone did that to me, I would just start laughing.
Exactly, but has anyone had any? Is what I'm
No.
asking.
Yeah. I told you this story the other
Oh, the
day.
woman, yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like that, right?
Yeah. So explain. So your local bar, you go
No,
to.
no.
Oh, I
This
thought
was a
you-
different.
Oh. Did you
You're
tell me
right.
the
That
story?
might. No. Yes. Okay. So when I was an undergrad, the LSU newspaper had a weekly opinion column, and it was written by this woman named Chanel Matthews. I'll let you guess her race. She was
Pacific Islander.
extremely stupid,
That's me.
opinionated but stupidly opinionated.
Pacific Islander.
And so she'd write these horrible things.
Happy
and
AAPI month.
she would write these horrible things and make absolutely no sense. And so one day, I was out somewhere with my mother, and I was telling her about this stupid thing that I read in the school newspaper by Chanel Matthews, and I was being very loud because I was angry and animated, and this black woman was standing behind my mother, and I said, yeah, this dumb bitch writes for our newspaper and her name's Chanel Matthews. She didn't know shit from Shinola. To which my mother looks at me and says, I can't believe you just said that in public. And the black woman turns around and says, I can't believe you said it, nother. And she walked away.
Nada.
Yes.
You have to remember the Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh.
And I
thought it was Chanel
turned
Matthews
red.
standing behind
No.
you.
No, it was just some random black woman. And she's like as if she knew Chanel Matthews. Like they went to a fucking meeting and she knew her from like, way back when. It's like, what?
That's that act like she knew Chanel from Tiffany. Shit. That's fun.
All I said was that she was dumb and she wrote some dumb opinions and she didn't know, quote, shit from Shinola.
And her name was Taylor Lorenz.
This woman was like, I can't believe you said that about this black woman. And I'm just like, what? It's not racist. Like, I just happened to say her name.
No, it's never happened to me. I don't think anyone's ever corrected me on something in public. And it's probably for their benefit.
It's for their...
But the story you're referring to...
Well, just that one woman being like... Okay, so you were... If I remember this correctly, you were at a bar, a local bar that you've been to many times. You know all the bartenders. It's like your Cheers. And...
It was karaoke night.
You carried Noki. And you went to go sing. You sang Lana Del Rey, and a girl said something, and you sang it well because you do sing Lana Del Rey well. I have it on tape. It's very good. If anyone wants it, DM me. You're very good. You're a good singer. And then she came up afterwards and said something to the effect of, "I can't believe you sang." She came to you, a gay man who is, by the way, Lana Del Rey's core demographic. Like that meme that's like Lana Del Rey mentally preparing to go to a concert full of like 1,000 gays calling her mom. Like, she was sitting there smoking a cigarette. But it's true. She went up to you and said, I can't believe you sing Lana Del Rey because Lana Del Rey is problematic.
Yeah.
Like,
she said Lana Del Rey is problematic because of the comments she made about BLM.
which basically the comments she made amounted to what? Because I remember there was an interview.
Honestly, I don't even know.
I think she said something to the effect of like, "Oh wow, I wish we could all come together." Like she said like the most inoffensive thing, and they're like, "Crucify her."
I think she probably
She
said something
mentioned BLM in a
sensible.
lyric.
She probably said something sensible about condemning violence, and they were
Right.
like, "Oh, how dare you!"
I remember. No, there was a Lana Del Rey lyric on that album that had the one album that she took. Definitely, she took like a picture in like Microsoft Paint, and then like put it as the album. It was blue banisters, something like that. It was on that album that she was like, oh, I went to
I haven't listened to that one.
What? Oh, it's so good. She's like, I went to Arcadia, I went to the horse track, I slept with an old man. Like, that's basically her songs now. She's giving
They're
up.
so specific.
It was called Arcadia. She
Anything
named
making
a song after an LA
making fun of
suburb.
Lana Del Rey will be cut from this
Bullshit.
podcast.
Lana Del Rey made a song after an LA suburb. She will not rest until she makes a song about every Los Angeles suburb. Like, it's going to be like, I was in Hawaiian Gardens, and I thought it was Maui. Like, that's going to be every fucking song for the next 10 years. She's so over it.
I will not stand.
So
for
there
that.
was a song though where she says something like, "It was the summer of the BLM riots." That's a lyric in that album, and then she just went off after that, and so she was kind of making like a Woodstock allusion, but I don't know. Lana Del Rey is a rose smoking a cigarette. Real quick before I get to the next thing, Lady Gaga is done. That Top Gun song was a flop. It was like a
haven't even
B-side
heard it.
from Joy. She's like, "Hold my hand," and there's like a jet flying over.
They had to drag in One Republic to pick up pieces.
So it was so bad. It was so bad. She was supposed to do... She didn't even do a song for the Gucci movie that she was in, which was horrible. She did a song for the Top Gun movie, which she was not allowed to be a part of. And then the song flopped so bad it was like 82 in the Billboard charts that they had One Republic record a song so that they could at least get a top charting song for this movie that's coming out that nobody wants to watch. She is so bad that they brought in the person who sings for motivational videos for Mormons to go on and do something. It was that awful. Anyway, back to another thing. Lady Gaga's done. You've seen her with the... So apparently they're finally admitting her makeup line launch was a flop because it was at House Labs House of Gaga, House Labs, was an exclusive through Amazon, and it flopped. And it flopped because Sarah Tano, who was her, like, that's how she called her name, who is her makeup director there, put her in the worst, you saw those pictures I put on my Instagram story, the worst eyeshadow possible.
Yes.
I could put on eyeshadow better than that, and I've never done drag. A person with Parkinson's could put on eyeshadow better than Lady Gaga could have. You would have had straighter lines. It was so bad, it looked like Trixie Mattel after 6 drinks. You know, like a friend of mine, I was talking, and you know, they said if they have to, you know that Barry Manilow does not, you know, answer her calls. Like, if you were a singer and you're in your 70s, she has probably tried to get you on stage. And all she's got left is Tony Bennett. He doesn't know what day it is. He thinks it's Gina Lollobrigida, like I said. And Lady Gaga is on stage there, and she's so done. She's done. And now she's getting a lot of flack for this Top Gun song, and I'm so happy because it's horrible. Anyway, speaking of lesbians, Sotomayor, who apparently, I heard she had a boyfriend once. I don't know. No one said anything.
We cannot keep this liable.
What liable? What's she gonna do? If she wants to sue me, here's the... Okay, you have to produce the fish. Where's the fish? It's like, where's the beef, but where's the fish? It's like a Catholic on Friday. Where's the fish? Where's the fish?
Close your leg.
Where's the fish? So Sotomayor was originally implicated in the Supreme Court leak because the idea was if you're super liberal, like she is, if you are questioning the prevailing opinion, like she is, if you are unqualified, like she is, then you're probably going to be upset about the Supreme Court decision coming out that overturns Roe versus Wade, even though I don't know why the lesbians would be upset about that. It doesn't affect them. We thought, or the prevailing opinion was, it was a Sotomayor staffer who is very close with the Politico reporter who published the story about the Supreme Court leak, including the document, the 82-page document in full. Apparently the staffer knew the girlfriend or the boyfriend of the reporter, and they went to each other's, you know, parties. There's pictures of them together. So it's that tight, because everyone in DC knows or has slept with each other. But it's that tight of a relationship. But as time goes by, it seems less plausible that it was one of Sotomayor's clerks or any clerk on the Supreme Court.
Right.
Because if there was somebody who would have leaked this information, and if, as John Roberts said, it was forwarded to the FBI to find out who did it, wouldn't we know by now? We're going on almost 3 weeks.
Right. So what I told you earlier this morning was, and I won't say where I got this information, but apparently, as I've learned, the rules have been relaxed because of COVID. They're allowed to take laptops, documents home, whereas before COVID they weren't allowed to do so. So it makes a leak like this easier to happen.
So before COVID, in the Supreme Court, in the over 200-year history of the Supreme Court, if there was a opinion that was written about a case before the judgment was made or published, it would have stayed within 4 walls. Like, it would have stayed at the Supreme Court. It could not have left the room. It would not have seen a fax machine. It would have stayed within a room, like Lady Gaga says, 99 people in one room. It would have stayed in a room.
That is such a deep reference.
A deep reference, because she said, if there was 99 people...
And one person believed in you.
And one person believed in you. And I love the supercut of her saying that over 12 interviews, because she's such a fucking hack at this point. And Bradley Cooper's just sitting there just hoping it was over. If there was an opinion that was released by the Supreme Court, it would have stayed within a room. Like, the document cannot leave that room. If you want to view that document, you or the other associate justice or the clerk has to come into the room to view it, because it's that secure because of what happened. When a document leaks and the judgment is not final, you could potentially sway the opinion of one of the associate justices and therefore change American history as a result. Like, it's a very important... We've not elected, we've selected 9 people to have that kind of power over our lives in accordance with the Constitution.
Which leads to the other thing that we've brought up, or that you brought up, you brought up in passing, not here, but to me privately.
Right.
You sent me a link to a podcast that I listened to, and one of the, I don't know, should we name him? One of the people, let's say Alan Dershowitz, right?
Yes, Alan Dershowitz.
He did make a
vaunted
very,
scholar.
very good point. I mean, the rest of it, I was up and down. I kind of got angry about certain things, but he made one very good point, and that is that making Supreme Court justices a lifetime appointment might have been a mistake.
Right.
Because, especially now that, longevity and life expectancy is longer, with technology, whatever. And the fact that people, like presidents, want a long-lasting legacy.
Right.
They are nominating people who are inexperienced for the court.
Because you want somebody who...
You want someone who's going to be there for
Right.
60 plus years, and
Right.
that's not right.
Like Dershowitz said, like, you want somebody in their early 40s, and just judging by his experience, which he has a lot of, you have to give him credit for, someone in their early 40s does not have the breadth or depth of constitutional knowledge that someone in their 60s does.
Or experience.
Because by the time they're in their 40s, they're not that long out of law school. Maybe they clerked for a couple years for a justice, but they haven't dealt with real life cases. They were not on the bench for a few years. They maybe did a short stint on the Ninth Circuit, but they have not done enough to be able to talk about constitutional questions that plague an enormous society.
Right.
And so
what's her cunt? Jackson.
Ketanji.
Yeah, she's only she's only been an actual judge for like a few years. Like,
Just like Amy. Barrett's not been on the...
I have no
problem.
problem with the fact that she might be an intelligent woman, she might be all of this, but she doesn't have the experience under her belt.
Wait, an intelligent what? Because she couldn't define woman.
She might be an intelligent human being,
Okay.
but she doesn't seem to have the experience yet.
Right.
She hasn't been a judge that long.
Well, which is, by the way,
She hasn't been a judge at a high level that long,
right.
I should say.
And I have to carry Ann Coulter's torch here for a second. She called out when Bush nominated Harriet Miers for the Supreme Court in 2005, who was his counsel, and her only experience was she had run the Texas lottery. She had never even been a judge. She was just his personal attorney. Like, it would be like nominating, like Better Call Saul for the Supreme Court. And she withdrew her nomination because she was rightfully embarrassed for having zero experience. Can you imagine if, and that was before Alito, can you imagine if instead of Alito you had Harriet Miers in the Supreme Court who doesn't even know anything about the Constitution? That's the problem. So the precedent that Dershowitz was talking about was you should establish, in the same way you have 6-year terms for the Senate, 2-year terms for the House, 4-year terms for president, which could be 2 of them, so 2 4-year terms, 8 years. You should have a 20-year term for the Supreme Court, which means you would be more inclined with modern medicine to nominate a justice in their 60s who has 20 more years of experience under the belt instead of someone in their 40s to serve until their 80s, to be like John Paul Stevens, get into your 80s, who doesn't, whatever, like, he knew his time was done, and he still lived another almost decade after he was on the court, and was able to, do, like, speeches at Stanford and stuff like that, and the Yale and all that, but he knew his time was done. He's like, I can no longer perform my duties with the intellectual rigor that I was previously capable of. So 60 to 80 is a pretty good period of time. So I think that's actually a good idea. Have a constitutional amendment where Supreme Court justices can serve for one 20-year term, and that's not a lifetime appointment. You can go do something afterwards. I think the original thought with the Constitution was, at the convention, was give them lifetime appointments. That way they're not focused on obtaining some kind of sinecure or job or whatever after the Supreme Court, so they cannot be influenced. So, for example, if a case involved Cargill, who was like the largest fertilizer company in the world, were to come to the Supreme Court, they're not afraid of offending Cargill because they're not worried about getting a job with Cargill when they're done with the Supreme Court. They don't have to worry about any of that because they're just going to be on this forever until they die or are otherwise incapacitated. So I get the idea. But we're in a modern era, and that could be the potential thing. That could be the last thing that needs term limits. Because I think that district judges... What?
Congress needs term limits first.
Well, yes. Congress has a term limit for the single term. Congress needs a limit on the number of terms they can be elected. Which I think should be 3. That seems like a good number.
We won't.
6 years in the House.
That's not worth debating right now.
18 years in the Senate, though? You think 18's enough? Dianne Feinstein doesn't know what day it is. She shit herself in front of multiple people. No, it's true. It's true. They talked about that. She's voided herself on the floor. She doesn't even follow a conversation. And yet she's still in the Senate. And she's one of 2 senators, one who was just appointed a few months ago, representing a state of tens of millions of people. So back to the, godforsaken David French podcast.
I didn't bring his name up.
Well, I said it. At this point, we're going to bring him on.
And I wasn't going to because...
give them promo. They need it. You're their only listener.
There was an interesting conversation that they did have. So there has been a recent Supreme Court case. They haven't decided yet. This guy, Coach Kennedy, I believe from Texas.
Is this the prayer case?
Yes. So... long story short, he was told he's not allowed to pray with his, football team. Okay. So he said, fine, I won't pray with them. I'm going to go out after every game. I will go out to the 50-yard line, and I will pray. I will let my team know that I am doing so, and if they'd like to join me, they can.
So it's a high school or a college?
High school.
Okay, so high school football, public high school?
Yes.
Public high school football game. His gig is he's the coach of the team.
Yes.
He goes out and prays. He's like, players, if you want to join me, join me. If you don't, I'm not going to play you next game. You'll be on the sidelines.
You're getting to the point here. So, but he's done nothing wrong. He has told the players and the students,
yeah.
I'm going to do this. You're welcome to join me if you want. You don't have to.
Okay.
So he goes and he's stands out in the 50-yard line. He says his prayer, whatever. He goes back. The administration of the high school says, would you do that in private? Like, could you do that like on the sideline or in a special room, like a private room? He said, no, it is my right to pray where I want to on my own sort of time. Before you say anything, I have to say that as someone who understands and has been around certain Christian denominations,
Presbyterians.
What'd you call me?
Sorry, I didn't call you Methodist.
There's a part of your religion as certain Christian denominations have where you have to quote.
We have to evangelize.
You have to evangelize.
Yes.
So, evangelize meaning, as part of your religion, you have to bring other people into it. Whether it is directly or indirectly. So, in the back of his mind, at all times, as to use a legal term, sincerely held belief that he has to, quote unquote, save people, he is doing what he thinks is best. He is following his doctrine, his sincerely held belief, which is protected by the Constitution. As long as he is not directly saying, you will not play if you do not join me,
right,
he has done nothing wrong.
Well, so 2 things. One, my initial thing was like, if you make it optional for players, then it creates a standard of acceptance or non-acceptance. So you might be a Christian player, but you don't express your belief in a public way, like I'm sure that some do. So you don't join the school prayer, the coach's prayer, but then you maybe feel like you're part of the out group and not the in group, and so that could create its own conflicts, just as part of like human dynamics for the team and everything like that.
Okay.
In fact, it would almost be better if the entire team came and joined it, because then you don't have any kind of identifiers. But
What? So
yes.
to that
That's the first point.
right to that
specific point.
Shut up. To that specific point. What if it weren't about religion, right? So what if I'm a math teacher, and I run the math club, and I want as many students to join the math club as possible, and I tell that to my students, and I subconsciously make note of who joins me in the math club and who doesn't, but it's not religious based, right?
But there's no legislation involving them.
But there's still a type. It's still the same thing. There's still this type of subconscious. Oh, I know who's joined and who hasn't,
Right.
and I know who I might favor subconsciously over who I don't.
That's inescapable.
No, exactly. But that's the point. You can't escape that.
But here's where I think that then he falls flat. In his job, he is not a parent of a player on the field. He is not a volunteer. He is, from what I understand or from the description, an employee of whatever Tarrant Unified School District, going out on the field and doing this. As a representative of the school district, he can say, I'm a Christian. He can say, I practice Christian theology. He can say what his theology is. His theology cannot interfere with the execution of his job, which includes educating, influencing, overseeing students. So any kind of expression of his religion is held up to the workplace standard, which means, from what I understand, he would not be in the right expressing any kind of prayer or anything like that in the same way that a teacher saying, I want to pray before every class, that would be considered no. Like, you cannot do that.
Right.
Even though
but all the students are there and all the students are forced to listen in that case. In this case, again, he's inviting students who want to participate, and he's saying you don't have to if you don't want to.
But that's the other thing, though. It's not in the locker room. It's on the field. So it's in view of both his side and the other parents and everything there, and the opposing side. And so acting in that position, he is a representative of the school. So he's held to a different standard than if it was just a locker room, like, huddle thing before they go out on the field. That's the only way that I think they can trip them up on something like that, because it's a public display. He's a representative of the school. He's an employee of the school. And so he's therefore held to a very high standard. That's where I think they could trip him up. I don't know the details of the case, but that's where I see it's like, ooh, that's a potential landmine from just what I see. Even though I think, here, my personal view, like as a person, I'm like, it's fucking fine. Why are we upset about this? We have so many problems to be more upset about. Who cares? One atheist person in the fucking, sidelines or something making a fuss. Leave him alone. Let him do his prayer. Do I think that God cares about high school football games? No. So, okay. That's my personal belief. That's how I feel about all of it. But I think from the constitutional standard, I feel like, ooh, it all comes down to as a representative of the school. And so when you're that, you are an employee of whatever unified school district, and therefore you have to reach this, higher standard. But who knows what they'll find? I don't know.
Right. So, you're absolutely right. But in saying that, you are allowed to pray on your own, quote unquote, like your own time. Right? So after the game is over,
Fine.
after everything's done, he can go out and pray.
You can sacrifice a goat. Who gives a shit? Stephen Hayes.
That was our last thing.
Well,
there should be
let's
something.
bring that up and then the other topic. Okay. So what?
I don't know if there will be
Stephen
another.
Hayes, what was he? Weekly Standard National? Was he National Review? I think he's National Review. Or is he Weekly Standard? He's that.
I don't know, but
I don't know what publication he was from. He's been on Fox 1,000
He works
times.
now with the Dispatch.
Okay, so he's with Jonah Goldberg's little coven. and Stephen Hayes, who's just, disgusting.
So
Huge.
Yes. Okay. Let me preface this with the Dispatch.com has made it very clear. I've already said it. The Dispatch has made it very clear that they are self-described conservatives, but they hate the direction of the Republican Party, and they hate MAGA, and they hate, Donald Trump. And recently, as in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, they have released, 2 of their 4 episodes.
Okay.
Of their Dispatch podcast have been interviewing people who've written books that were very anti-Trump and very anti-current Republican viewpoints.
Right.
One of them being Mark Esper. Was that his name?
Yeah, who is Trump's former defense secretary.
Right. So one being him, and then another being these 2 New York Times journalists.
Okay.
Who were apparently at or around D.C. on January 6th and had some very, sacred things to write about it. So about that one specifically, Stephen Hayes said during the podcast, I read your book. I made a lot of notes. But to me, it feels like you were eulogizing the United States of America.
He said this to
Mark
Esper?
the New York Times journalist.
Okay.
So the New York Times journalist writing about January 6th, he said he felt that they were eulogizing the United States of America, and that we were so divided and so divisive that we might as well end the country's life and just be done with it.
Yeah, that's what the founders wanted. I like how they're all acting as soon as January 6th happened, which by the way, a couple of you went to the Capitol building and sat in Nancy Pelosi's chair, big fucking whoop. And they're acting like, Nina Bobina Brown at the end of RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, well, it's over. They're all sitting there. It's like, this is what causes you to fold? That's your 9/11? This is what's too much? So Stephen Hayes how can the country still continue after this? It's like the Barbara Walters question of if you could be a tree, what kind of tree would you be to Katharine Hepburn? That's the level. That's what he thought he was doing.
Well, that comment definitely took the New York Times reporters by surprise. They were not expecting to say something like that.
Even they weren't expecting such
bullshit. But then he said one other thing. It was during the same episode because someone else did the Mark Esper episode.
To give some background, sorry. Mark Esper, who was Trump's defense secretary during the riots, during 2020, during all that, he said 2 things about Trump that were supposed to, shock and horrify you. The first one was he said, when those protesters in Lafayette Square Park were descending upon the White House, Trump said, we should deploy force to push them away from the White House because, we've seen the War of 1812. We don't want that to happen again. And, what are they going to do? They were going to burn it down. They burnt a police station closest to the White House. And Esper said, I would resign if Trump asked me to use force against these protesters, which was stupid. Yeah. They should have. Number 2, he said, at some time Trump was talking about the border, and he said, why don't we just go after the cartels directly? We can do missile strikes, we can do all kinds of intelligence gathering, we can end the cartels bringing in fentanyl, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans every year, all that stuff. We could end it right now if we wanted to. Let's do it. And Esper said, I couldn't execute, that. So he was clearly unqualified for the job and abdicated his role at multiple, points.
Yeah, no, he said during that interview that there were a few things that he said I would resign if I were asked to do them.
And this country would be a better place if he did. In fact, Trump would probably still be president if Esper resigned. But they knew that.
And 2 of them being exactly what you brought up. So, doing some type of strike against Mexico or
clearing violent protesters out of in
Or-
front
yeah.
of the White House.
Clearing, well, anywhere.
Yeah.
Deploying the military to quash violent protests anywhere. He said, I would quit over the suggestion to do that.
Nobody wants to talk about the fact that just as recently as summer of 2020, multiple cities had full blocks destroyed through protests and violence. And no matter what people say,
And people lost everything.
people lost everything, and some people lost their lives. And no matter how many people want to say, oh, well, it's insured, or oh, the city's going to pay everything like that, you lost entire chunks of American cities. Minneapolis, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, D.C., New York, and even cities, it's even smaller cities around the country. And it's like, oh, that didn't happen. That thing in St. Louis, that didn't happen. Oops. Oh, the thing in Chicago, oh no, we forgot about that. There's still a portion of Minneapolis that's not there because of what happened. And everyone wants to act like that didn't happen or ignore the reasons why it happened. And so that's a very strange sort of like collective forgetting that happened during the quote summer of love. So anyone who did not act during that time should look extremely stupid for not doing so.
So last thing about Stephen Hayes. He said that he didn't understand how so many people could support Donald Trump after Donald Trump has, during his speeches, rallies, press conversations, etc., said that he doesn't give a shit or doesn't care about the American people. He is only out to, I don't know, further his own agenda or something like that.
Because he's absolutely said it during his speech, right? Like, there's definitely speeches where Trump said he doesn't give a shit about the American people. Like, we can find that quote, right? Right? Yeah, you guys in the control room, can you find that? Oh, no, that didn't happen? Oh, Stephen Hayes pulled out of his ass? Oh.
I'm sitting here listening to this podcast and I'm going, what is he talking about?
Stephen Hayes.
What the fuck is he talking about?
Stephen Hayes, with his tits hanging over the microphone, he could solve the baby formula crisis with his lactating breasts. Sitting there, talking about how Trump said he didn't give a shit about the American people. In the middle of a speech, which never happened. That's like a fake meme or something. That never actually happened. Is bizarre. It's bizarre, and it's like, here's the thing. He wants, the narrative that's being sold is, he's trying to say, oh yeah, Trump said he doesn't give a shit about the American people, and he said it to his own fans' faces. Because Stephen Hayes is projecting that he thinks that Trump supporters are stupid rubes, and he wants Trump supporters to know that Trump thinks that they're stupid rubes, even though that's not the case. Because it just validates Stephen Hayes thinking that these people who shop at Walmart, who, listen to country music, who drink beer, who vote for Trump, that they're all just disgusting people. Because Stephen Hayes is sitting there, latching, and sitting there writing opinions. It's so condescending and horrible. The contempt that Stephen Hayes and the National Review set, and Weekly Standard and Bill Kristol have for the American people.
No, you're right. It is contemptible, and it is. It's disgusting. It's haughty. It's haughty.
Right, because it's like, oh, these.
It's self-important.
Because when you pressure test these people, when you say, hey, my son doesn't want to die in a war in Somalia, they say, well, our job is to export democracy, so that's the sacrifice you have to make. Okay, is Stephen Hayes there? Can they find an outfit that fits him? What did David French do? He was a JAG. He's the dumbest attorney I've ever heard of in my life. What service did he do? What desk did he sit at in Iraq? If there's anything that he did, he probably made it worse on us. Like, Tokyo Rose. At least she provided entertainment. What did David French provide?
So how do we end this?
With a bang. With a fart.
Good night, and good luck.
No, I don't want that as good luck. Good luck costs money.
Good night, and fuck you all.
Yes, there we go. God.